correct? Okay.
What
I am.
conference is that?
I just want everyone to know I'm about to go live on Facebook right now.
It
Um,
is I believe it's the AWC conference.
Yeah.
Great.
And then let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, we have 4, so we do have a quorum. Michelle, do you want to wait a couple more minutes?
Yes, please. I would like to wait a couple minutes.
I just got a text from Councilmember McHenry. She said she's going to be 5 minutes late. So can we start? So let's wait maybe 1 more minute and then we can start. Because by the time we start and introduce everybody, I'm assuming she'll be rolling into the meeting.
Okay.
And Councilmember Perry, this isn't the norm usually.
Yeah, usually we're even more confused.
No problem. No problem.
Okay.
It's always an interesting, we've just at the county just gone back to hybrid, just started hybrid. And that's been really interesting between council members in person and online like this.
Mhm.
So sympathies all the way around.
Yeah, Snohomish County's doing the same thing where they're like in a hybrid mode as well. I think it's pretty much what we're all doing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard.
So I could go ahead and call the meeting to order if you would like, since we have a quorum. So it's currently 5:31. And do we have anything for good of the order? And council members, please just speak out because I don't have your faces on my screen right now. I don't hear anyone. If it's okay with the council, I'd like to move the review of the regular meeting agenda to after the discussion items so that our Mayor Pro Tem can review the meeting agenda, if that's all right. Is that okay with you? Okay. So first for our discussion item is our King County District 3. We have an update from our King County Council member, Sarah Perry. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. It was so great to see you at our Duvall days the other day, to see you face to face for the first time. So I'm glad you joined us and look forward to hearing from you. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It was great to be there. Now I have a presentation and I'm just going to see if I can. Now let's see how I'm going to share it, but I have to figure that out for just a minute. Let me see here.
You'll see down at the very bottom in the middle, a green button that says share screen.
Yeah. Well, let me see if I can do this. It's not, I think I'm not choosing the right one here. Let me see if it does it this way. Oops. I'm sorry. Sorry, one sec.
Is Sarah Perry on as a panelist as opposed to just an attendee?
I am, but my
You are,
share option is grayed out for some reason. Oh, there we go. Why don't you tell me, can you, let's see. I don't have that option. Maybe if I send it to you?
Yeah, you can send it to me. Let's see. Osman has his hand raised.
Osman, can you help or send it to Sarah?
And council members, while we're waiting for that to come up, if you could all rename yourselves to a council member and then also for staff as well, name who you are, since council member Sarah Perry is still fairly new. And that way she knows who we all are.
That would be helpful.
Thank you.
Can you all see the screen now?
Yes, we can.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, very good. Okay.
The floor is yours,
Osman.
Councilmember Perry. Yeah, of
We
course.
sure appreciate it. Yes. So I'm Sarah Perry, King County Council member for our district. There are 9 districts in King County. And with the last census, the redistricting happened, and they have shifted some different numbers around to make sure that each of the nine districts have 252,000 residents. So we each have about 250,000 residents. We have 157,000 registered voters in our district. And the cities include Redmond, Woodinville, Bothell, just 2 precincts in Bothell, Duvall, Carnation, Skycomish, Snoqualmie Pass, Snoqualmie, Falls City, North Bend, Preston, Issaquah. I think I said Sammamish. Almost 74% of the residents here live in unincorporated King County. Sorry, live in incorporated within the cities I just named in King County, and 26% live in unincorporated King County. So of the 252,000 residents, 77,000 live in this, between the Woodinville unincorporated out to the North Bend and the Pass unincorporated. And when you add Carnation, Duvall, Snoqualmie and North Bend, you are well up over 100,000 residents in that unincorporated and that the valley town. So it's a lot. We have a big voice there, and we need to lift it. Wide range of ethnic and cultural backgrounds, and 6 forests, 4 watersheds, multiple lakes and rivers, and 6,500 acres of farmland that we work really hard to protect. Next. My focus is my priorities are housing, the environment, transit, and feel very deeply committed to behavioral health. So I've been visiting with the mayors once a month, the fire chiefs every other month, the police chiefs every other month in between that, meeting with the schools. This is a really great sustainability youth group that's been giving their presentation to the governor and to all the council members and really putting out their work. And I hope they're picked up by Shark Tank because they're doing some great work on sustainability. And then Puget Sound Energy was visiting one of our Issaquah schools to show off the solar panels that are heating and providing energy, not just for the school, but for the surrounding area. So that's a really exciting partnership. So as the council members here know, I'm also meeting with each of the council members in all 10 of our cities to really get a picture of what the priorities are, and then ultimately hope to connect each of the council members with other council members throughout the cities who have shared passions, shared vision on what they want to focus on, no matter, whether it's housing or jobs or the environment or what it might be. And also we're working strongly with the Snoqualmie and Tulalip tribes as well in all of our different work. One of the things that I've been doing with the environment is there's an ordinance that we passed to strengthen King County's energy codes for housing units that are 3 stories. They ensure that they are solar ready. They don't put solar in them, but they ensure they're solar ready for building. And regarding behavioral health, so we have next week a meeting with our fire chiefs and police chiefs, all 10 cities, fire chiefs and police chiefs, and Sheriff Patty Cole-Tyndall. We're going to meet in person at the police station in Redmond, at Chief Lowe's police station there, and talk about each one of the different chiefs are going to talk about the particular program that they care the most about, whether it's Medic One or mobile integrated health or behavioral health specialists, social workers, radar star program. These things are really a focus, and together what we know is 988 is coming in July. So this is a behavioral health hotline where it's not of imminent danger. There's no weapons involved. And there's it's a national call line. And we know from Arizona using it, 85% of the calls are handled right there. And then the additional 15% of the calls that need folks to come on out, whether it's mobile integrated health or co-responder, folks will go out there. So we know generally we can see a path of who to call. And we can see a path of who's going to come, whether it's fire, police, behavioral health. We can see a way through. We'll still working out the lanes and the messy parts of that, but we can see a path to that. Nobody knows then where to go. So many of the calls will be taken care of just by going out there. But then for the few that are going to need a place to go, whether it's Alzheimer's or autism or depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation, a psychosis or schizophrenia or substance use disorder, whatever behavioral health crisis is going on. It's a medical crisis, and we need to make sure that there's a place for folks to be where it's safe and it's close to where they live, and that it becomes a blip in their life rather than a catastrophe that we see far too often. So all of the police chiefs and fire chiefs are committed to this, and we're very excited about the work that we can do together on that. Next. So we've been sending out newsletters on this council. How many of our city council members are getting our newsletters? Show of hands. There we go. Well, if folks click on the browser, go to kingcounty.gov/Perry, you'll have an opportunity to add your email to the list. And we sent emails out January, February, March, April. We just sent our May newsletter out, and June is coming. We have over a 30% open rate, which is great. It's higher than the national average. We have about 50,000 valid emails. This means between 15,500 and 18,500 open those emails every month. And we put a survey in that email, in the newsletters, and we have a 1,622 response rate. So that is essentially from those openings, that's about a 10% response rate of those who opened it. We wanted to make sure we had a response that was even, that had an even baseline across all 14 zip codes. So we made sure we did that with our emails, but then also augmented it with a text campaign for 2 cities that annoyed some, and others loved it. But we did get those numbers up to a baseline level so that we can really get a snapshot of what people care about across the district and within each of the zip codes. So for the district itself, the top priority is environmental protection and climate change. Second top priority is public safety, then roads and street improvements and investments. When asked the priorities for human services funding, over 50%, well, actually exactly 50% in the district said public safety, then behavioral health, then ending homelessness. The top 3 most important transit services are to add park and rides first, then increase bus routes, then increase bus frequency. And almost 60% said they wanted other options beyond 911 to have social workers, behavioral health specialists, and that kind of support. That's for the entire district. Now let's look at Duvall. Okay, so environmental protections and climate change is still #1, but we don't see public safety as a priority in Duvall. We see roads and street improvements and investments and affordable housing. And Osman, I think this is the only city that put affordable housing as #3. Is that right?
Sorry, I was on mute. Yes, that is correct.
Yeah, so
And-
out of all 10 cities, this is a really important fingerprint for Duvall. You know, you really are focused on affordable housing. It's very important to see. And so then the priorities for human services funding, again, affordable housing, then behavioral health, then ending homelessness. And then adding park and rides, increase bus routes, increase frequency, it's the same. And for 911 options of social workers, behavioral health, similar support, I think you're probably the highest in all 10 cities who said options other than 911. So 67 is about 7.5 points higher than I think what our average is. So that's exciting because now we know, what the options are and what Duvall's thinking about, and we want to make sure we're going deeper into these conversations, because what is road and street improvements and investments? What does that actually mean? What does affordable housing actually mean to people? It means different things to different people. So we want to go deeper in that conversation and make sure we're really hearing what folks care about so that we can just encourage that involvement and be in that together to look at solutions together. And so, as I said, I've been having regular conversations with Mayor Ackerlander, and then I'm meeting with the 4 mayors, so Duvall, Carnation, Snoqualmie, and North Bend, and with King County Metro. So we're meeting in person to be able to have conversations directly about what the mayors really see as important for their particular cities. And so we have Snow Valley Transit, Amy Biggs, and she's amazing. And we have Salwa with Hope Link as a vendor, and she's amazing. But there are also just very specific needs that each city has in terms of routes and electric shuttles and destinations that the mayors need to have a direct relationship with Metro to have a conversation about. So that's been going really well. We're going to have our next one coming up. And in that one, we'll bring in Amy Biggs of Snow Valley Transit and Salwa from HopeLink as well, so that we'll have all the conversation together. And they're coming out, Metro's coming out, the director and associate directors are coming out in person, which is just terrific. They're very excited to work together. Meeting with Police Chief DeBach, having ongoing conversations. And then Chief Erskine, I was able to come on out to Duvall Fire. I got to sit up in that fire truck. I got to hold on to that great big wheel. That was so fun. I got to meet with the personnel there, and Wendy was really, it was really very thoughtful and kind and generous of them to drive me all around the district. So I could really get a sense of how big the district is and the facilities that you have, and a gorgeous new facility that you have. And just, there's so many opportunities there. So we're really excited to work together. And the chief has been there for a year, and I think Wendy's been there for 6 months. Is that right, Osman?
Yep, I believe end of December of 21.
And she's one of what, 27? What is she as women representing in the
One
fire?
of 27 chiefs, yeah.
One of 27 chiefs, women as fire chiefs. So that is very exciting.
Yeah, across the state, actually.
Across the state.
Yeah.
Yep. So we had a fire mitigation roundtable with the chiefs in the Wildland Urban Interface, Emergency Management, Snoqualmie Tribe, and Tulalip Tribe, because our forests, we have 6 forests, as we mentioned: federal, state, county, city, tribal, private. And we are 20 years behind forest mitigation, 20 years behind California. So it's right there. If we have a problem, we're in a lot of trouble. And so we want to make sure that we're all having that conversation together. And King County has a lot of great programs going on. They've been working on this for the last 1.5 years. They're going to bring forward a program as well. So we're excited to have that conversation continue. And we talked about the second behavioral health roundtable. And after we meet with the police chiefs, fire chiefs, sheriffs, to look at the gaps and overlaps, we will then be meeting with the healthcare providers, the hospitals, the superintendents, the folks who have their feet on the ground, who are actually meeting people on the street or at their doors, and really listen to what they think needs to happen. What are they seeing? What's unique? What's different? What would they like to see in a program? I recently went to Arizona with about 40 other people, a couple senators, 4 representatives, and a whole bunch of folks from Medicaid and the state and the county to look at the gold seal in behavioral health called RI, and also a group called Connections. And Connections is coming out on the 29th. We'll be meeting with them, and I hope that they'll join part of this meeting as well on the 29th to be able to talk about what the options are and what they're doing really well out there. So it's just a lot of energy going on around that. In coming forward, we met here with, as we mentioned, educational, faith, civic leaders, healthcare, and then we'll be meeting with small businesses and nonprofits in each of the cities as well, but we've been already doing that. So we're integrating all of these different pieces. By the end of the year, just like the city council members, we'll have a really clear idea of where there are overlaps and gaps in all of these different areas throughout our district. We're very, very excited to get going together and to just bring people closer and closer into the conversation. So that's where we are. This is our team. This is Osman. He's my communications and community outreach manager, and Libby is my chief of staff, and Robbie is my legislative assistant. So he's the one you meet for scheduling appointments. And we just hired a policy analyst. So we're very, very excited about that, and her experience with land use and behavioral health. So more to come on that as we look at our policies. That is my email. That is my work phone number. And again, kingcounty.gov/Perry will get you to the website. Lots of information. Our map is there. All of the surveys. So if you went on that website and you looked on the left-hand side and you went down to the bottom, you would see the surveys responses for each of the cities. So if you take a minute and you look through that, you might be interested in seeing, well, how did Carnation, what was their voice? And what was it like for Snoqualmie or North Bend or Woodinville? What did they have to say? So some of that is very interesting. And we'll be doing this again, as I said, in a much more specific way. When we look at behavioral health, we're working with the police and fire to help us with those questions. That means different things to different folks. So you can reach out to me on Facebook, Councilmember Perry, or Twitter, CM Sarah Perry. I would love to hear from you. I'd love to get a cup of coffee together. Osman, what is my Duvall Day?
Duvall Day, have to double
So
check that one.
we have one day a month for each of our cities, and we typically have those on Mondays for.
Mondays, yep.
Yeah, and so there is a particular Monday of the month that is our Duvall Monday, and I will physically be there. We are just starting all of these conversations in person rather than on Zoom as they have been. So whenever
And-
there's not, go ahead.
Sorry, Councilman Perry. One last thing is the town hall in Duvall on July 14th.
Oh, yes. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we will be having a Duvall Town Hall at the fire station on July 14th at 6:30 p.m. If you're already on our email listserv, we'll be sharing, the information via email on Councilmember Perry's Facebook page. It'll be on the website as well. But yeah, just make sure that you're inviting all of your communities, making sure that all of Duvall, comes out, joins us at the fire station on July 14th, Thursday.
And then the 18th, which is that Monday, that's my Duvall Day. So I think that's the third Monday. Is that right?
Yes. Yep.
Yes.
Third Monday.
So the third Monday of the month, I'm in Duvall, and I would love the opportunity to have lunch or coffee or just take a walk or visit and hear what you have to say, questions, ideas you have. Because I am very, very excited to have the opportunity to be here. It's a 4-year term. I believe in term limits, so I'll be here 1 or 2 terms, and I'm going to mentor folks on that. But I have a fire in my belly to get some good work done. So would love to do that with you. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have if there's time.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Perry. And also thank you, Osman, for showing up tonight, being here with us. I'm going to pass the meeting over to our Mayor Pro Tem McHenry to take over.
Yeah, thank you so much for handling the meeting from the beginning. I got in a little late. So yeah, thank you, Councilmember Perry, for the presentation and always being so open. And I love how you just absolutely hit the ground running and are reaching out to so many people. Do any council members have questions for Councilmember Perry? Go ahead, Councilmember Hoag and then Isaacson.
I just have a comment. It's kind of interesting to see Duvall, what's important to us. And I feel like our public safety probably isn't important because we do so well with public safety. So we don't worry about it, right?
That's right. It's interesting to see that. How do you qualify a negative, right? If there's no issue, you just have these great officers here.
Exactly. So that's kind of what I see there. And the affordable housing, I think, is because we don't have enough affordable housing in our city. So anyway, so thank you. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Absolutely.
Councilmember Isaacson.
Actually, it's interesting. Councilmember Hoag had the same comment. I think one of the reasons why public safety isn't on our list isn't that it's not important. It's just because I think we feel very safe here. So I want to make sure as someone who comes from the outside visiting, I don't think it's not important to our citizens. They just already feel safe. And so we shouldn't take that as an area that we don't want to continue focusing on. As well as affordable housing, I think one of the reasons why that pops up for us is because the value of homes in this town in the 5 years that I've been here has risen astronomically. So affordable, the definition of affordable in this town is interesting. It would be interesting to know what someone means by affordable housing. I think what they're saying is not just affordable housing for low income. It's like the general populace being able to afford a house in this town anymore. So 2 cents for you. And then a curiosity question was your numbers on citizens in the new districting, and you broke out voters in our district of 157,000. Do you happen to have the numbers of voters in other districts?
It's roughly the same.
Is it equal?
Yeah, it's roughly the same. But, there are some districts that have many more residents than registered voters, right? And so some of those, you'll just see those in folks where they have moved in recently, or they're citizens here on different visas, and they have they're residents here on different visas, but citizens of other countries, or they have partners and spouses here, that kind of thing. So it's roughly the same in each district. I mean, it's marginal.
That's good to hear. I like to see a balance of voters as opposed to just numbers of citizens, because voters is what's going to drive everything, right?
Totally. Yep. That's right. Yeah. I've been here 28 years. So I moved to North Bend in 94. and raised my kids in the Valley. I know Duvall well. I watched it before it was all it is today. And I was part of Children's Services of Snow Valley when they came on out to Duvall and were creating a presence there. And Sandy, I think, no, Sunny was her name, that had one of the shops there in town. It was an arts kind of a shop. And I just am very, very fond of Duvall, and I'm watching it grow and change. And I understand what you're saying. We want to make sure that we're not removing support for Duvall's Finest by seeing that it's not a priority. It's not a priority because they're doing such a good job. So we want to keep that funding there. And I know that the development in Duvall has been exponential, and the traffic is really tough, but it's not necessarily from Duvall, right? It's a sort of a pass through. And so we need to be paying attention to the transit and the traffic for Duvall. And somebody sent something on Facebook about a corner or a bridge or something, and something needed to be fixed. So those are the kind of things I'd like to hear more about, because it helps me really see the picture. Then there was a picture of a bus stuck. Yeah. So I mean, those are the kind of things I'd love to hear about, so I can get a clearer picture of the concerns and the thoughts as you go.
Councilmember Schaefer?
Well, I suspect each of us could give you an earful about it's the Highway 203 Woodinville Duvall Road intersection, and it's a bit of a disaster. But really, what I wanted to say, Councilmember Perry, is I am very impressed and very much appreciate your outreach program. Your desire and willingness to talk to people on the street, to meet with individual council members, to really understand the specific needs of each city or each unincorporated areas as well. And that's so important, to recognize the differences between communities. We in Duvall consider ourselves somewhat unique, but every city, I'm sure, is unique in its own right. But anyway, I thank you very much for that effort. And I know it is a gargantuan effort on your part, but thank you very much.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, council member. I'm dedicated to the Valley because I raised my kids there, and I love the experience, and I love the uniqueness we have in this district. We have 4 very urban cities: Issaquah, Sammamish, Redmond, Woodinville, very urban. And then we have these 4 delightfully rural cities. They're still, thriving in their own way and growing in their own way. And but their setting is in this unincorporated space around them. And it's unique and precious and something we need to protect. We are the least housed state in the country. We have the least amount of housing per person in the country as a state. And so we have a housing problem because we actually have a housing problem. And so when you look at that, and that we have 1 million people coming into King County in the next 10 years predicted, and that this district is the 2nd fastest growing district in all of King County predicted, and then that there's so much pressure on our cities and towns, we have a lot to protect. And you're absolutely right. Every single city, Sammamish will tell you they're not Issaquah, and Issaquah will tell you they're not Redmond, and Redmond will tell you they're not Woodinville, and there's a uniqueness in Snoqualmie and North Bend and Carnation and Duvall, Fall City, and that's absolutely true. It's made up of the people who choose to live there for the particular reasons they choose to live there, which makes it very unique. And that's why it's so important to me to talk to everybody, so I can hear what is that particular focus for each city, because it's not going to work to have a blanket approach. But I also want to make sure you get, Osman, when you get connected to our emails, you'll see all of the grants that come out each month. And Osman will send that in an email as well. So it'll be on our website, and then it's also in the grant. So when you're thinking about that playground over there, when you're thinking about that open lot, when you're thinking about park and rides, or you're thinking about all those things, facilities, pools, aquatic programs, millions and millions of dollars in aquatic programs are coming up. So just encourage you to keep that in mind as you're thinking through that.
Councilmember Naplin?
Yeah, I have a couple things, and one just popped into my head. You talked about the aquatics program, and I had sent that to the school district, I think when it was announced last year, and I haven't really heard back. They've had a lot on their plate, but if you are meeting with them regularly, maybe you could work on that too, because I hear that.
We'll put on our list, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, there was a study published, commissioned by the state to try to figure out how they can get these types of facilities for our youth and just the general public. And it's this partnership between a city, a county, a school, and where we work together and share a facility and share the cost. And anyway, so, you know, trying to get us all together to make something happen. I know our community would just be thrilled to see something like that. What I was raising my hand for originally is that I have heard about this presentation because you visited some of the other cities already and that you had all this data, and I was just so excited to see it. And I'm assuming you'll send us the PowerPoint. But I'm
Sure.
curious.
It's also on our, it's also right on the site, but we'll send the PowerPoint. But yeah, it is right on our site.
Fantastic. And if there's any additional drilled down data, we would love to see it. And even if it's not in a pretty graph, I don't know, even the raw data, I'd be super excited to see it. And sometimes we do surveys and we'd be glad to share the results with you as well.
That'd be great. Osman will put his, can you put your information in a chat or something, Osman? Because he's your guy. He will get you all the data you want to see.
Yeah, it's just really exciting. It sounds like you've made a lot of connections and have a lot of
Well,
great.
you know what
Thank
what
you.
we didn't put in here is there are 2 questions at the end of it. It's what do you love about your community that you would like to see protected, you know, and say, what would you, then another question, what would you like to see created or changed? And the final question was, do you have a message for Councilmember Perry? And that got some colorful, lovely, fun, and also colorful responses, depending on where people were. But these can be produced as word clouds. And you also learn a lot about what people are interested in. And a lot of it is these parks. I know North Bend put in and received $4 million for their pool that they're building. Snoqualmie missed the deadline. The second round is coming up. You know, there are a lot of options there. So I just think we need to keep talking, but Osman has all that information and we'll be happy to share that.
Fantastic. I love those text box responses. You sometimes can capture things that the multiple choice don't gather. So
Yeah,
that'd be
that's
great.
right.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, I want to encourage everybody to also reach out to the state. I don't know if everyone knows, but I am married to State Representative Bill Ramos because we are crazy enough. Our kids moved out and we decided we'd do this. And he is the vice chair of transportation in Olympia. They are looking at 202 and 203. So this last round, Highway 18, 90, others got a lot of attention. We need attention on 202 and 203. So I know that the representatives from the 12th district and the representatives and senators from the 5th district and 12th are talking about what's possible, what we can do together for 202 and 203 from a state level. So your encouragement to talk to them, you know, sending stuff to them will keep it top of mind, but just know that that conversation is beginning and your input will be important to that.
Well, Councilmember Perry, thank you so much again for coming here. And Osman, thank you as well. You're always so great to chat with and your outreach is amazing as well. You're welcome to hang around, but we're actually all going to disappear into a closed session. So I hope you guys have a great night.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you having us here. I hope you guys have a great night.
Thanks. You too.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So with that, we're going to move to our closed session pursuant to RCW 42.30.140-4B for planning or adopting the strategy or position to be taken by the governing body during collective bargaining proceedings. And then we'll all come back here when we're done.
How long will the session last? Oh, she's off. Okay.
I don't know if I can help answer that, Sarah. I'm not quite sure what they're expecting. Should I?
I would put it at 1 hour because I don't think there's anything left on this agenda, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so we'll just put it at 1 hour until 7 o'clock.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, everyone.
No.
Amy, have you heard at all from the mayor if she's going to be able to join us for the council meeting?
Not yet. I was trying to confirm, because I thought she was just not gonna make it to the cow meeting.
Yeah, well, if she doesn't make it the next minute or so, I vote for you to start
Well,
the.
yeah. I'll make sure we get going on time before too much delay. So let's see. I thought she was gonna come, but let's see. Unless, has anyone, Sarah or Laura, have you heard differently?
Just texted her to see if she's going to be at the meeting. So I'm assuming we'll hear back really quick. But I
Okay.
think if we don't within the next minute or two,
Yeah, we'll
then
just
I
start.
would, yes, thank you.
So quick question while we're waiting. Everybody changes their name and it says click this button to remember your name, and I have to change my name every time.
It never works. Mine,
Just checking.
Yeah, no, it's not just you. Mine will, depending on which link I go to, it'll be different ones too. It'll be sometimes if I'm at a regional meeting, it'll just say my name and then Duvall. It's really weird.
Mine remembers it's just in a list. It just doesn't set it as a default. Got to go down and choose it.
My list must be short because it always starts with the same thing.
We're used to being on a short list, Rick.
Yeah, I think it's really helpful, especially for our public, if we all name ourselves. And so I see a couple, well, I see the majority of us still haven't named ourselves.
We used to have a format that we followed, right? Like you do a dash after your name and then council or your title or whatever, right? Yeah. Well, clerk or Director Thomas, have you heard anything or should I just get us rolling? I think it's about that time. Okay. All right, so I'll call to order the Duvall City Council meeting at 7:04. Clerk, could you put the flag up for us to do the salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And the roll call, please.
Councilmember Isaacson,
Present.
Councilmember Schaefer,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem McHenry,
Here.
Councilmember Mercer,
Here.
Councilmember Hoag,
Here.
Councilmember Napland. Here. And Mayor Okerlander.
Okay, we have a quorum. Thank you. Sorry, I'm balancing a couple screens here. So clerk, under additions and corrections, I know sometimes the mayor has a printout. Is there anything I need to add here besides the planning commission agenda bill?
Just the planning commission agenda bill, I believe is all. Yes.
Okay. And do I need to say, do I need to reference it specifically? I just need to know if I need to look that up in my email really quick, or can I just call it what I just called it and it'll be done?
Well, generally the council, you could do a council unanimous consent, or you could do a council motion to add said item to agenda. You don't have to say the agenda bill if you don't want to. You could just say, the item, but I guess it would probably help to say the agenda bill. Let me look and see what that is for you. One sec.
It's Agenda Bill 22-60.
I
Yeah.
just
The
found that.
appointment. Okay.
All right, so I'd like to add the agenda bill 22-60 to the agenda, I guess just at the end of new business, at the bottom of new business, if that works.
Hearing no objections.
Okay. Hearing no objections. And do we vote on that, Sarah? Sorry.
No, you just did a unanimous consent there because nobody objected, and so
Okay.
you just did it.
All right, perfect. Okay, and so let's see, next up is adoption of the council agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'd like to move that we approve the agenda.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. Okay, motion passes. Thank you. And next up is our comments from the audience. So clerk, would you mind reminding everyone how they would signify that they would like to speak?
Yeah, sure, no problem. So if you're in the audience tonight and you would like to speak and you're not on the agenda for some other item, please now press the raise your hand icon, and we'll then unmute you and allow you to speak. Individuals have 3 minutes, and if you're representing an organization, you have 5 minutes, and I'll announce whenever your time is up. So we'll just pause for a second and just press the raise your hand icon if you'd like to speak. Okay, I'm not seeing any, and I did not receive any written comment to read or into the record or anything.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mhm.
Next up, we have our consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve that?
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second, Chip.
Second.
Okay, it's been motioned and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Next up is the mayor's report, which we'll skip since she's not here, but I would say she's attending the AWC conference in Vancouver. And I'm sure there'll be some good updates when she gets back. And next up, I did not see the chief, or is he in person? Do we have, okay, there you are. So we have our King County Fire District 45 report.
Well, thank you. My name is Wendy Moffett, Deputy Fire Chief, filling in for Chief Erskine tonight. So I know you've all received a packet. Report. Highlight some of the cool things to date, we ran 487 calls, maintaining a 67% EMS, 33% fire. Last month it was 72 EMS and 28% fire. Down here in Duvall, we're running 69% of the calls for the district. And a couple really cool things I'd like to mention as some shout outs is we just had one of our firefighters promoted to lieutenant, firefighter Jared Shoup. He's worked really hard for that, so that's a great shout out for him. We've got some really cool things going on. Last month we had some interagency wildland refresher training where we brought in fire districts from Kirkland, Snoqualmie, Fall City, Redmond, Bothell, Pierce, and our own personnel here. We went up and coordinated with DNR in the back woods of our district and did some wildland training. It was a really great event. And then, of course, with the promotion, we have a hiring. Last week when we closed, we had 87 applicants apply for one position. That was a really, really impressive numbers for us. And so we'll be hiring a full-time firefighter in the fall, September, October timeframe. Do you have any questions?
Does council have any questions? All right, not seeing any. Thank you so much for your report. Next up, we have the Duvall Police Department report.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, Council. I'll give you our report tonight for the month of May. Our ongoing recruitment and hiring efforts continue. A couple of exciting things recently. Elliot Head, he just graduated the Basic Law Enforcement Academy on the 16th, and he's just started his field training. He's had about 3 shifts. We just hired a lateral applicant who began his employment today in the office, which is exciting for us as well. Chief DeBach selected a candidate from a strong group of applicants for the police administrative specialist position. That candidate has accepted the position and is currently in a background process. Once all of these staff members are on board, we're hoping to bring them to a meeting. I believe it's the July 19th meeting, and formally introduce them to you all. So that'll be fun. Police administration, we currently met with the Riverview School District to renegotiate the full-time and part-time SRO ILAs. That meeting went very well. The district has agreed to pay the $40,000 for the SRO liaison at Cherry Valley for the next school year, as they have in the past. The specifics of the full-time ILA, that has to be ironed out quite a bit regarding wages, hours, working conditions with Officer Dunkley through the collective bargaining process this summer. The district recently interviewed Officer Dunkley for the full-time position, as he was our only internal applicant. That interview went really well. Everything, all signs point towards a great partnership for this 22-23 school year, which we're really excited about. Another thing that's exciting that came out of those meetings is the district's committed to the DARE program for the upcoming school year. They also received permission from King County Sheriff's Office to have our department teach DARE at Carnation Elementary. So that'll be in addition to the schools that we've taught at here in the past. Officer Dunkley is currently attending DARE instructor training, and he'll be in there for the next couple of weeks. So there's been a lot moving in from that front. I recently attended the Labor Relations Institute conference in early May. That was very beneficial. If you weren't aware, the city has approached the FOP about starting bargaining for their new CBA that expires at the end of the year. We recently sent 4 officers to personal watercraft for law enforcement training. This was great training that got the staff ready for river safety for the summer. That's likely going to start well, it's not likely, it's going to start this weekend with the warm temperatures coming. So we'll be out there. We've posted additional shifts, and we have plans to have the jet skis out there as much as possible over the summer months. We've been working on developing a refurbished bicycle helmet program for the community, which was discussed at our recent Public Safety Committee meeting. Police department would love to partner with the city in any way we can to help this program come to fruition. We continue to work on solutions to provide more consistent services for mental health For the community, as you know, there's been a priority, and we are continuing to work with regional partners from King County Councilmember Perry's office, Redmond Police Department, and Fire District 45, to name a few. We have utilized Redmond's mental health professional in the past. She is absolutely fantastic. It's been great to work with her, but she is very busy, and a more permanent solution there is something that we're working towards. Redmond Chief Lowe has expressed potential interest in an ILA. And that's something that we can talk about as we negotiate the dispatch contract, which is coming up soon as well. And then lastly, I'd just like to say that, our department really enjoyed the Duvall Days celebration this year. It was really great to see everybody out there again. And, we kind of considered our bread and butter to all get together and be out there with the community and have our whole department working on the same day. And it was just we really enjoyed that. And it was really good to see. So with that, that is what I have for you this evening.
Thank you. Any questions? Go ahead, Councilmember Isaacson.
Yeah, just add a little levity. Please pass to the police chief and the force there. Appreciate y'all's professionalism. My daughter had firsthand experience with you guys last week, getting pulled over for her first pullover at 16 years old, and she had nothing but good things to say about you guys, how y'all treated her. So that's a good thing for a 16-year-old to get pulled over and be treated respectful, and she walked away with respect from the police department. So I appreciate that.
Councilmember Schaefer.
Let's see. Yeah, I don't know. I just want to emphasize how excited I am about some of the new things coming on, the water safety program, the bike helmet program, especially since King County no longer has a law requiring bike helmets. And so much excellent progress on the hiring front. And I couldn't be more pleased with the progress that the police department has made in all of these areas. Lieutenant, a quick question for you. Assuming everything in progress comes to fruition, what do we look like as far as hiring? Are we still down one officer?
Yeah, we're currently down one more position at the officer level, and then we have the sergeant candidate is in background right now currently as well.
Yeah, great. Okay, thank you.
Great. Any more questions? All right. Well, thanks so much for your reports. With that, we'll move on to council committee reports. The first step being finance and administration with Councilmember Naplin. I had to wait till you were drinking your tea there.
Yes.
So.
I don't think we had a meeting, did we?
Yeah, you're right. Actually, yes, there was not a meeting.
I thought, oh no, did we have a meeting that I'm supposed to report on? I didn't remember.
Yeah. Do you have a update? Like, are we? I think we're in the final stages with procurements. Probably just need one more review, and then we'll get it to everyone soon.
Yes, that is the hope.
Okay. All right. The land use committee. Who is the chair on that committee?
I think I am. And we did not have a meeting. It was canceled.
All right. Public safety with Councilmember Schaefer.
We actually haven't had a meeting till since the last council meeting, but Steve gave an excellent update anyway, so we're all up to par on the news from the police department.
Great. And then public works.
I knew you were driving. I'm happy to give an update unless you
I'll drive it.
Notes.
Yeah, I think.
Sorry, we're cutting back and forth. So we actually did have a meeting for the first time on last Friday, the 17th. First order of business was selection of a new chair. Councilmember Isaacson is taking that on for the next year. And we walked through, Steve had prepared, Director Leniszewski had prepared an agenda for Councilmember Isaacson, Councilmember Schaefer, and myself. We walked through an update on a couple of projects approaching final plot, the Rio Vista project, the Sunset Court project, and 65 Degrees. Director Leniszewski provided an update on the recovery contract that was initiated by Rio Vista. We received an update on the Big Rock ball fields and some of the results of the visioning study, which I believe we've also discussed a bit in Cal. Received an update on the treatment plan and where we are on the fourth train, and sort of surfaced the topic around the continuing with the pre-purchase of additional materials, both to reflect the current supply chain issues, as well as some potential cost savings given the current inflationary climate. And then we spent essentially the majority of the meeting doing some initial discussion on the allocation of ARPA funds, and from the project and discussion we had, which I believe Director Laniszewski took an action to do a little bit of a deep dive on those, come back with some recommendations based on our conversation for the broader council.
Thank you. Next up, we have our ad hoc committee, the council procedures update, code of conduct. Councilmember Hoag, did you want to
Yes.
update everyone?
Update everyone. So Amy McHenry, Mayor Pro Tem McHenry, and I met on the 13th, and we went over, sorry, I have a dog barking, 7.1. And this is the section on committees. And what we really, on this section, we decided that we kind of like what we currently have. We might want to make a few tweaks to it. And instead of like 5.6, we started fresh almost. But in this section 7.1, we're going to be kind of using what we have and just, enhancing some areas of it. We may want to have a meeting with our attorney to kind of go over this section before we bring it to council, just to make sure that we're kind of on the right track about some portions of it. So that's it. We're really coming along. We're getting super close to bringing it to council.
All right, thank you. Okay, all right, so under other council reports, I remember, so we had to shuffle things a bit because originally this was going to be on the Cal meeting. And so I just wanted to check really quick with Councilmember Schaefer and Napland, if you felt prepared or wanted to chat about the downtown economic development tonight. Are you ready to take that on? Or if you...
I think so. Well, how do you feel?
Sure. I mean, we don't have an elaborate presentation, just kind of an idea to ask. I don't know, Councilmember Schaefer, do you want to go ahead, or I'm?
Yeah, and I do have an elaborate one-page bullet list. I can.
Let's do it. I will pass it to you then.
Let me see if I can get the right thing going here. Okay, and share. Can you guys see that? Is it big enough to read?
Yep.
Okay. Good. So Jennifer and I were chatting specifically about downtown economic development and what might be possible there. Jennifer found an excellent site where the town of Snoqualmie had actually hired a consultant to come up with ideas specifically for Snoqualmie. And this was a little bit dated. It was a number of years ago, but nonetheless, just looking through there, it generated a lot of good ideas in my mind. And I tried to capture some of those here, plus some others that either Jennifer or I came up with as well. And I'm just going to quickly go through this bullet list. I don't want to make this terribly long, but common sense things like partnering with downtown businesses. This would be an extension of what we're already doing with our one-on-one chats with the downtown business owners, making sure that what our ideas have some correlation to what their ideas are as well. Obviously, emphasis on historic preservation, the look and feel, things that we've already done, I think, a very good job of here in Duvall. We want to continue that. Improve signage for businesses, parking, recreation. We do have good signage down there. I'm not convinced we can't do a better job with signage. However, that's an area where a consultant may be able to add their 2 cents worth. Storefront facade improvements, as we've discussed multiple times, related to ARPA funds, something that would give continue kind of the consistent of this old west look and feel to downtown Duvall. Some what I was calling streetscape enhancements, basic things like hanging flower baskets and planters, outdoor dining on the sidewalks. I think all of that will go a long ways to having adding to the appeal of downtown. I added this one today, an inviting causeway integrating downtown with McCormick Park and the riverfront. We do have such a causeway right on Stevens Street. Again, I'm not convinced that can't be improved and emphasized a bit more than what we even have there. Obvious focus on pedestrian friendly, family friendly, continued investment in public art, I think goes throughout all of this. And the need for increased branding and marketing. This is an area where I think we as Duvall can do a much better job actually, putting things on the internet, making people realize what a desirable place Duvall is to visit. The family friendliness, the safety, the activities, etc. Questions, comments so far? Jennifer, you got anything to add to that?
I think this is a great list. It's what we talked about. So I didn't know you'd prepared this. This is perfect.
Well, yeah, it was sort of, stolen from an email that I sent to Mayor Pro Tem, but yeah, okay, thanks. And literally, I prepared this about a half hour before the meeting, so don't give me too much credit. Let's see. So how would we do this? Well, I mean, there's lots more ideas than what I have here. ARPA funds are certainly a possibility. The possibility of matching grants where a business might, maybe a business would match 20% of what the city, puts in, 50%, whatever, and put the bulk of that on ARPA funds, but allow businesses to have some skin in the game as well. Obviously direct investment by the city. We do have possible funds that we can use for this, even without the ARPA funds. Grants related to historic downtown preservation. There's I'm only aware of one such organization, and Jennifer, you probably know more about this than I do, but this Washington Main Street Fund is a possibility there. And then also the potential use of a consultant for their expertise, their ideas that they could help us generate. And I'm not suggesting we go spend a couple $100 grand on a consultant, but maybe, maybe 50 grand, something like that, just to make sure that we're not going, off on, on a wild goose chase here with some of our investment. And that's the purpose of this, by the way. I'm not really looking for a vote of support, not tonight. The purpose of this really is just to plant a seed, a seed, for thought for the council to, to start thinking about. We obviously need to come to some sort of a agreement on this before we spend ARPA funds on it or any other budget on it. But there's, even as nice as our downtown is today, there's potential to make it even more attractive, especially to outside visitors. And I think that's it. Jennifer, anything to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that part of the reason we wanted to bring this to council is previously when we were thinking about how committees work, we wanted to make sure that if we were going to, tackle something in a committee, potentially we would bring it forward to council just to see is that something anyone's even interested in us investigating further. And so, land use, economic development are often tied together. And I think it might be part of our, when they talk about the things that fall into each committee. And so I don't know if that's something we could tackle as part of land use, just investigate a little bit more. I know I was talking to Director Thomas last week because she was curious about what we were talking about. And she has some really amazing ideas and has access to our old economic development plan that we've done. And so just to kind of do a little bit of work before we would come back and have a further discussion. And so I think we were hoping, maybe just, if that's something the rest of council is even interested in, we could kind of understand that today.
Councilmember Schaefer, would you mind unsharing your screen just so I could
Oh,
see everybody a
sure.
little easier?
Yep.
Thank you.
See if I can figure out how to unshare.
Well, I just wanted to start by, thanking you both for, putting this together and talking about it a bit more. And Councilmember Naplin, you answered my question before I even could ask it, which was, would we be looking at an ad hoc committee, or is there another committee this already fits into? And of course, you answered that already. So it sounds like this has potential for land use committee, and maybe you're wanting to just see if council agrees with sending it there initially. Doesn't mean that it wouldn't eventually also spin into its own thing, but yeah. Go ahead, Councilmember.
I guess, throwing this in, we've actually started this discussion in the Public Works Committee. And it's not clear to me, well, it is clear to me it actually belongs to some extent in both committees. There's obviously a lot of overlap here, but some of the items that Steve agreed to come back with more information are directly related to downtown development. So I want to make sure one way or another we take a coordinated approach on this and don't overlap or waste time.
Yeah, Director Thomas, go ahead.
Thank you. And thanks, Councilmember Schaefer, and obviously Councilmember Naplin for our discussion last week. I think there's some low-hanging fruit on that list. And I think, let's start slowly rolling it onto our land use committee. Maybe the first thing we look at is maybe looking at what is low-hanging fruit, what we think we could accomplish maybe this year and in the next biennium, and go that way. I think one thing, and we'll talk more about this in our committee, is I think we should also survey our downtown businesses to see who might want to take advantage of maybe a program that would allow for facade changes and stuff, just so that we make sure that we're going down, that if we do something that big, because that is a big lift, that we do it with purpose, right? And that somebody's going to utilize it and be able to match those dollars.
Exactly.
Yeah. Let's see, Councilmember Isaacson.
Yeah, I apologize. I keep taking my video off, guys. It breaks up every time I turn on the video. I think my bandwidth over here is low. But expanding on what Laura said, what we talked about in Public Works when it comes to funds was we had some sentiment about that, and that was, do we rush into trying to do something with that money and then it doesn't pay off, or we'll find people interested in it and then we run out of time. So one of the things we'll bring back, or at some point, the appropriate times, we as a council or as we talk about, is there a way to take some of our funds before we lose them, so to speak, before they expire, and invest them in things we already have budgeted in city's funds, and fence off city funds to be committed over a longer period of time of equal value, so we can take time and do these things that you guys talked about, Jennifer and Rick. So kind of heads up and put in the back of your minds. If I don't know if Rick shared that with you, Jennifer, in the discussion of this, but just so we don't, haste makes thing, and we're good stewards of taxpayers' dollars. It's one of the ideas we tossed out that hopefully Steve's going to bring back to us, and we can vote as a council as to what path we want to go down.
Councilmember Isaacson, you're breaking up a little bit for me. I don't know if someone else could hear you a little bit better. I think I caught some of it. Go ahead, Councilmember Schaefer.
I was in the the Public Works Committee, so I think one of the things that Councilmember Isaacson was mentioning is the possibility of actually applying the ARPA funds to something that we could actually show an investment in sooner, and then by moving money around. So, for example, we could put all of our ARPA tons into the fourth train. This is just an example. I don't even know if that's possible. And then take the corresponding $2 million that we already have budgeted for the fourth train and put it back into some other fund, holding that other fund on until we feel like we're ready to spend it. But the purpose of that would be to take the time constraints away from us of spending the ARPA fund. Yet we as a city would still hold those funds back, those same dollar funds back to spend on economic development or whatever we decided to. John, did I capture that at all correctly?
Yes, and sorry for my if it's coming to a little bit very vague. Concept would be to fence those funds off and make sure they're still used in the way that this council deems they should be used with the intent of ARPA, what our kind of list of things that we wanted to do, but decompress it and let's be responsible with taxpayers' dollars and do it wisely.
I understand. Thank you. And thanks for chiming in there, Councilmember Schaefer. Councilmember Mercer, go ahead.
Yeah, I just, actually 2 points. And I'd imagine Director Leniszewski and Director Thomas will coordinate, because I think, Steve, you can sort of fill in some of what we talked about in terms of actions that you were going to investigate. I just wanted to chime in, and I think it echoes, a point that you brought up, Steve, is that, we shouldn't assume in the current economic climate that folks will necessarily take care of the facade improvement. So I appreciate, Laura, your comments regarding polling the business owners, and I think there's a broader question of what that right mix is in skin in the game when we actually move to an execution phase, and if in fact that's what we decide to do. And then I think the other piece is, just around that broader conversation is, what is the mix? I think there's a broader conversation for the cow in terms of, because we had some mixed feedback, I guess, amongst the council in terms of, go all in across all buckets or focus, a bigger bet in certain areas. And I think that will, the result of that initial polling of the business community will inform that decision as we move forward and figure out how to execute. So that was it.
Thank you. I'm not seeing any other hands, so it sounds like, and so anyone just raise your hand if this is not something that you're interested in, but it does sound like since Public Works Committee has already started rolling in this, there will be some collaboration with the Land Use Committee as appropriate. I guess I think the directors and the committees can figure this out and then take on what they want to take on or what makes sense, and then come back to council at some point with some updates. I think, that's a great plan in my opinion. And I know we don't just want to put all the money into one bucket. We are interested in others. And this one certainly seems very closely related to the facades. And so just continuing to explore these, I think, is a really good idea. All right. Thank you guys again for bringing that up. That was really great. All right, so next up is the administration report. So I will hand that over to Director Thomas.
Good evening, Council, Mayor Pro Tem, and members from our community. I'm going to do this as quick as I can. I know we have quite a few things on our agenda. So not just a couple of updates. So OpenGov update, building went live today and very successfully in phase 1. We took in our first 6 permits. We've reviewed them and processed them. So that's a really big deal for us. Finance has kicked off the budget module training and meetings, and those have also been really successful. So I think we're doing pretty well. Q1 finance report was emailed today by Dana. So I'm going to let her jump in really quick and go through that. And then we've got a couple other items. So Dana, you're up. I'll unshare my screen and then I'll reshare it when you are done.
You're muted, Dana.
Thank you to whomever said that. I appreciate it. This is a Q1 finance report, and I do want to apologize that it's so tardy, but we've had some significant challenges with staffing and software implementation, and I did not want to give council numbers that weren't accurate. So these are accurate, and I'll just move on. We'll start off with revenues. So you can see 62.5 for Q1, 62.5% of the biennium is complete, and 47.9% of revenue has been received. And it may seem a little bit low, but that's mainly due, in part to development. We're expecting a lot of the development revenue later in the year, and that affects the special revenue funds. It affects the capital projects funds because the impact fees are there, and then also affects the utility funds because of the general facility charges that are held there. So we should see those coming in the next few quarters. For expenditures, it's 62.5% of the biennium is complete, and 38.5 has been spent. And expenditures are low just for the same reason. In the special revenue fund with building school impact fees are collected by the building and permit fund, and they're development related, and they're passed through to the school districts. So the revenue comes in, the expenditure comes out. That's a big chunk of the lower revenues there. And then in our utility funds, there's a $3 million transfer from the sewer operating fund to the sewer capital fund. Another reason that transfer hasn't occurred yet. We should see that in the next few quarters as well. And then can you see the general fund revenue? Oh wait, let me do one more click. There we go. Whew, I was a little nervous there. Okay, so through the budget is just over $11 million, and through Q1 2022, the city has received just over $7 million in general fund revenue. And compared to Q1 of 2021, it's an additional 142,000. Property tax is at 51.2% received, which is just right on target. A little bit over Q1 of 2021. Utility tax, 66.5% has been received, and that's just a little bit higher than anticipated because the city received November of 2021 revenues in January, so it's a little high. Sales tax is right on track as well, just a little bit higher than the 62.5, and over the same, and this number up here in the top. I'm gonna put on my little pointer. Does that work? No. So this number up here in the top that's without sales tax from construction. So compared to the same quarter in 2021, just a little bit higher, about 3%. And then for sales tax from construction is actually a little bit, only 48.8% has been received. And that's also a little higher than Q1 of 2021. For general fund expenditures, 55% of the expenditures have been received for the year, or actually been spent, I should say. And that's just over about 94,000 more than was spent in Q1 of 2021. Salaries and wages are at 56%, a little lower than anticipated, but that's because we haven't done all of our anticipated hiring in 2022. The same with personnel benefits, and then services just a little bit lower than Q1. Professional services are just a little bit lower than Q1 of 2021. Building and permitting revenue is about $342,000 less than the same quarter in 2021. And the main reason for that is we're expecting development revenue later in the year. So if you look over here on the single multifamily housing permits, through Q1 of 2022, 3 permits were issued. And in 2021, that was 25. But there are 50 permits in-house right now and 10 more expected each week. So we should, through July, so we should see those numbers going up pretty soon. For building and permitting expenditures, the change from Q1 in 2022 to compared to 2021, it's just over $300,000 less. And again, that has to do with, some of it has to do with the building permitting revenue, but it also has to do with this, the school impact fees that are development related. The city collects them on behalf of the school district and then remits them. You can see up here, that's where a big chunk of the difference is. The water utilities are all looking great and revenue is slightly higher than anticipated, but not by much. Water expenditures look great, just at 56.6. And you can see right here, there's the comparison of revenue and expenditures to Q1 and 2021 and Q1 in 2022. Sewer expenditures are low. And again, that's because of the $3 million transfer from the sewer operating fund to the sewer CIP fund that hasn't occurred. So everything's looking pretty good right here. And then in our sewer general facility, utilities general facility charges, these are also low, but again, we will see those go up as permits are issued. And here's all the fun stuff. So here's our real estate excise tax. So the city, there were 32 units sold in the Q1 of 2022 compared to 29 in 2021. The city received almost $108,000 in that Q1 compared to $89,000 or almost $90,000 in 2021. And the average sales unit went up from $634,000 in 2021 to almost $678,000 in 2022. So a pretty big jump there. And then the average rate, of course, went up as well. And here you can see just the sales in 2018, and as the total units, even though they dip, the revenue is going up. Oh, kind of cool. Impact fees, the city received one street impact fee and one park impact fee in 2020, the Q1 of 2022. The other 2 single housing permits had credits for development improvements. But again, these numbers will go up as the years goes by. And then here's our transportation benefit sales tax. The city receives 0.2 of a cent sales tax for the district for street capital improvements. And it was the Q1 of 2022 was 15% or almost $13,000 more than the Q1 of 2021. And then here's our sales tax trend. This is everything. It has all sales tax from construction, even the amount that's being put into the strategic fund. And so biennium to date, the general fund is just, almost $1.75 million. And the strategic fund is $350,000. So we should, I think in the Q2, we'll start putting sales tax from construction into the strategic fund because it will be going over the threshold. And this is the very last slide, just this beginning fund balance, which was just over 26 million, and the city's ending fund balance for the biennium, which was 32.5 million. So that's a net change of almost 6.5 million, just a little bit more than has been budgeted. But again, we haven't done a lot of the capital project expenditures. So that fund balance net change should change as we complete some of our bigger projects or start paying out for them. And that's it. Are there any questions? I know it was riveting. Everyone's probably just in shock.
I saw your hand. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, thank you. let's see, yeah, a couple of observations here. One is the sales tax trend. I'm assuming that's up to date for this year, and if so, it shows that yeah, thank you. Yeah, it shows that evening up again between I guess between oh, that's Q1 through Q1.
Yeah, so this green one is Q1 and this is year to date. So right here is just year to date.
Okay, I see. Okay, I misinterpreted that. I thought we were comparing against another year somehow, but that's not the
I will say that sales tax that is not construction is really evening out. It's not as crazy it has been for the last couple of years.
Yeah, well, and this is as we've talked about and predicted, as people, as we recover from COVID and people kind of get back to their normal way of doing things, our sales tax will decrease just because people are not ordering as much online and they're going out to other cities and spending money. So, but okay. And then second observation is more along the lines of with a little bit of levity. I'm very happy that our budget is in much better shape than that poor wagon at the beginning of your we do need to do something about that wagon, by the way, before it just completely disintegrates. But anyway, thank you, Dana.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Director Lenashevsky.
Yeah, Councilmember Schaefer, the wagon. It is rumored the Rotary may be planning something, so stay tuned.
Okay, good.
Any other questions for Director Mason? All right, then back to you, Director Thomas.
Thank you. Our next report will come from Sarah, and it'll be pretty quick. It is on the appointment update for our city council member. Sarah, you're on deck.
Okay, so thankfully we have received one application for the city council so far. The deadline is July 1st. I have verified the minimum qualifications for office, the residency requirement, the voter registration. So this person is eligible to apply. And I was just going to say a decision point for the council might be, do you want to start doing interviews now, individual interviews now? Or do you want to wait till July 1st and see what you get total? I just thought maybe you might want to use the time and maybe begin doing your individual interviews now. I'm not sure.
So is the question if essentially, I guess that would just be up to each individual, but are you just asking if as you get in applications, if council wants you to just email them each out, so if they want to start them now they can, or
yeah, I guess I was just asking if the council wanted to go ahead and proceed with individual interviews as they come in, or wait until I receive them all. Yeah, is it a one at a time approach that's desired, or? Yeah.
Councilmember Schaefer, you still had your hand up. Did you, or?
No, I didn't mean to, but as long as you call on me, I'm fine starting now. I actually had the same question in my mind. Can we get a hold of this person and ask to chat with them? I do vaguely recall that we had did we have some kind of standard list of questions that we were asking, or was it just all ad hoc? I guess I don't recall.
That's all up to each individual. When it comes time for the public interview, then I would come up with a list of 3 questions to ask each candidate. Gotcha.
Okay, good. Okay, that's helpful. Anyway, if it's okay with the rest of the council, I see no reason to hold back. In fact, I think it's highly unlikely we'll get another candidate anyway, but if we do, that's fine. They apply before the deadline, we'll chat with them too.
Thank you. Councilmember Naplin.
I'm glad the question came up because I was curious if I could, reach out and interview, even though we hadn't closed the open time. So I would be in favor of being able to do that so that we aren't rushing at the end in case there were more.
Yeah. All right, well, I don't see any other hands, so it sounds like, oh, go ahead, Councilmember Isaacson.
Yeah, hopefully you can hear me. I seem to recall the last one, we did have a list of pre-chosen questions for the phone interview as well, so that we were making sure that we asked the same questions of each person. But then, like you said, there was very specific ones for the formal interview that had to be asked the same. But I thought we had like 5 questions that were kind of highlighted last time when we called the individuals, because I remember using that list to kind of make sure I was consistent.
I think that's not something we dictate to other council members, but I think it's a technique to use so that there's some consistency with each. So it doesn't matter that all the council members ask the same questions, but I think, on an individual level, it would be good for you to use the same set with each candidate if there are multiple, just for consistency's sake.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. So yeah, it sounds like, Sarah, that council would like them to come in as you get them, as you receive them rather. But then maybe at the end, after the deadline, if there is more than one, might it be possible for you to send one more email with all of them attached, just in case people don't want to go email fishing?
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
All right.
I'll make sure I tell the candidate that you will be contacting them, which I actually already took the liberty of doing. So you can call them tomorrow if you'd like.
Great.
Great, thank you so much. All right, back to you, Director Thomas.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to give a quick update. The city administrator recruitment, thank you for participating in the last council meeting with our consultant. They received good feedback. I did email a summary from the consultant that came to us. Please take a look at it. I wasn't at that meeting, so I want to make sure that it adequately and correctly summarizes all the comments that have been received by council and also the mayor and also our directors. The open recruitment begins on 7/11, so that's here in a couple of weeks. The close of the recruitment will be on 8/8. So it's just under a month recruitment. There will be a short list to the mayor by 8/23, and that's when the big process for our mayor begins. We have interviews scheduled already for the virtual interviews for 8:30 and 9/1. We have an in-person interview with council scheduled on Saturday, 9/10 for the city administrator. Please note that's on a Saturday. So if that is an issue, please email the city clerk and myself so that we can get another day scheduled. We also are going to be sending out a survey to our community and a survey to our workforce. We haven't received a copy of those yet, but once we do, we'll send those out as a courtesy as well to the council. Are there any questions on that item?
Councilmember Naplin?
Yeah, just super quickly, what is the expectation on the Saturday night, September 10th council interview or the meet and greet or whatever that is? How many candidates will it be narrowed down to at that point?
I looked at the summary that was sent to us and it looks like it's more than one. I don't know if it's 1 or 3. So we'll get some information back to council. That was a question that we had internally as well.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember Naplin.
Clerk McMillan?
I just wanted to give an update on scheduling for the budget workshop. Would that be okay at this time?
Director Thomas, were you done?
Not yet, but we can go
sorry.
ahead, but but Sarah, go ahead. I mean, it'll fit in. Go ahead.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So it had looked like from the responses to the poll that I sent out that June 29th at 5 p.m. was the preferred time when most everyone could be there. But I just saw that Councilmember Isaacson would be unable to attend at that time. So We're just kind of trying to do the best we can to find a date that works for everyone. It's very difficult. So, and we plan on doing that hybrid and having it at the Visitors Center. And it's 4 hours. So just an update.
And we will be providing a meal at that since it spans meal time. Just a development update because we've had a lot go on while I was on vacation, but more specifically last week. So as you probably saw in social media, that Duvall Village has had a maintenance issue related to their park areas, their open spaces, their sensitive areas. There are 3 parties that have been contacted. That would be AHV, who owns a portion of the property, also Westcott, and also DFA. So my understanding is they're going to be working pretty much immediately on getting the maintenance done. And then it's important that they continue that maintenance. We don't want anything to go to seed, and it needs to be regularly maintained because some of that landscape will become ours over the next couple of years, and some of the sensitive areas will as well. So we want to make sure that that is continuing to be maintained on a regular basis. And so thank you to the community for putting that in our ear, and also to a couple of council members that made contact with us as well. We have received 2 comments related to the Duvall Veterinary Construction and Building Permit update. I did go through the history of the project. In general, that project took less time on the land use entitlement time than average, and there haven't been projects that have moved forward faster ahead of that one. Because I did see that that was a concern. But we did have a failure on our part. The permit was received in February and it was not routed until May. So we had an internal discussion with the building, planning, and public works. All comments for the building permit and construction permit have been provided to the applicant. The permit should have been routed earlier, so we will take care of that as we continue to. I think that, well, I don't think, I know that OpenGov will allow management. So that would be Brian, Steve, and myself to see when a permit is submitted and routed so that we can track it internally, and it can also be tracked externally by our applicants. You know, our goal is to review permits within 3 to 6 weeks, depending on the number of permits in. Currently, now we have 70 permits in. When I talked to Dana, we had about 50. So we've increased that by 20. It's a lot to manage when you don't have a software system. But in any case, I don't want to blame that as our failure. It was an internal failure, and we will continue to work on fixing that. I will be personally communicating with the owner and applicant tomorrow. I wanted to talk with council first. So that's where we're at on that. It was hard for our team to see that we had that kind of failure. We've had, similar ones happen on occasion over the years. Community development, just a small update. We haven't received any applications for our senior planner in a month, 0. So that is obviously concerning. It was similar with our other departments having struggles to recruit. I also received additional notification from another consultant that they have reduced capacity now to assist planning with daily work and long range work that is not already currently scheduled. So we've talked about that a little bit. It's just really tough right now to get planning services anywhere, whether we're recruiting or getting them through a firm. And we did actually pass on a commerce grant last week because we just don't have the staffing capacity, and we don't have consultant capacity to assist us. So if there are any questions, I can answer them. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for that update. With that, we're now on to special presentations. And first up, we have the Riverview School District Superintendent presentation with Dr. Anthony Smith.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay.
Yep.
Fantastic. Well, I am excited to present to you tonight. So it just says presentation, but in visiting with Laura, we thought it would be good tonight as we are transitioning to a new superintendent for Riverview to say goodbye, to introduce the new superintendent, to thank the council and the city of Duvall for our wonderful partnership, and then to just give some updates on things we are partnering on and in the process on, most notably the annexation. And so with that, I would like to introduce Dr. Susan Leach and invite her to say anything she would like to say. And Dr. Leach is now a Duvall resident of the city of Duvall.
And I've also had my first encounter with the police when I accidentally set off my alarm system. So thank you. I'm really happy to be here and I'm getting settled in, and I look forward to interacting with all of you in the future. I'm really excited to get working, and I know I have big shoes to fill here. So I'm excited to meet you all.
You will do a great job, and I'm really glad the board decided to do a national search to get the right person to make this transition, and Dr. Leach is the right person for this job. So a year ago, I was preparing for a summer of student interviews and videos for transitioning back to full-time for all students. And I'm ending this year with the dedication of the Cherry Valley playground and learning some lessons from kindergartners. And the first lesson I learned from the kindergartners was a photo op was wanted with Misha Robertson, our Director of Business and Operations, and myself, and a kindergartner reminded me that there are rules around this, that you have to wait in line for your turn, that you can't cut in line. And so I waited in line for our turn and following the rules. And another kindergartner was talking to another kindergartner and said, who is that? And the other kindergartner said, oh, silly, don't you know, that is the mayor of the school district. So must have seen my appearance at the during the parade. And the last one was, a kindergarten came up to me right before I was ready to get on the swing and said, wow, you're really big, you must eat a lot. They are so transparent. As has been mentioned, I'm retiring. My last day will be in a couple of days on Thursday. And like I said, I'm really excited for Dr. Leach. Her first official day will be July 1st. And I just wanted to appreciate our partnership over the years. And we've had so many past successes with the expansion of the Cedar Crest property, the expansion of the indoor facility at Cedar Crest, Cherry Valley remodeling and expansion, including having a multi-purpose room so students didn't have to eat lunch in the gym, which also helped our PE program. And moving to the annexation process, thanks for your hard work during this process, and thanks to the district for their hard work and the partnership. And Laura has been, and others, including Steve Lenishevsky, have been more than willing to help support and guide us and partner with us. And then I just wanted to acknowledge that during the pandemic, forward movement and progress, whether it was as a school district or the city, was difficult because we were dealing with so many issues at hand during the pandemic. So it's nice to be relatively through that as we transition to an endemic. And next steps in the process and plans. Well, we have a desire to, so for those council members that might not be aware, we own, we're working on annexing 58 acres across the street from Cedar Crest from King County into the city of Duvall. And then we already have another 10 acres that is in the city of Duvall that's up on Big Rock Road, not very far from Safeway and the current developments that are there. So we have our plans are, we have a desire to maintain this 58 acres and are doing so. Right now, there's two really pieces of property, the former Burnite farm and then the Lennon property. And with the Lennon property, Scott Lennon is still renting from us. So that's how that property is being used currently. And then below in the Burnite property, we don't have any tenant, and the future is not planning to have any tenant there. And then right now, about the biggest use of that property we would even plan on is some storage of equipment. And that's about it for now. We're ready to complete the annexation process and then bring any proposals that we might have forward to the city for approval after we're through the annexation process. Right now, science classes are using the trail system for investigations for science. So that's nice to have that accessible for science classes to get real field experience. And I'm really pleased that with these properties, I believe the school district, with these properties and then property, we have some big pieces of property where schools already exist in the south end of the district in Carnation. I believe the school district needs for growth will be met for the next 100 years. That would be contingent on the annexation for the 58 acres, which is well underway. I've been super proud to lead a destination school district in a destination community. And I just want to remind you guys all of something you already know, which here, our cities, the county and the school district, along with our community organizations and businesses, will continue to be at the heart of what we do. And the level that we're able to partner and support each and every community member will determine the success, which I have no doubt there will be success in the future for this community. And then with that, again, this partnership's been great. We've accomplished all our goals that we set out to accomplish together. We will continue to do so. And I truly believe that we learned so much from the pandemic. And we are using those lessons to get even better as a school district. I know the city is, I know the county is, and I believe for our community, speaking just for this community, the Duvall, Carnation, and surrounding areas in the 225 square miles in the Riverview School District, the best is yet to come. I truly believe that. We will continue to grow, consistently, and our numbers are looking good for kindergarten enrollment across the school district for this coming year. So with that, I will take any questions you might have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Go ahead, Councilmember Hoag.
So since this is kind of your last meeting with us, I'll get a little personal. And I remember when I first met you, at the time we were chatting at a meeting and I mentioned that my son was frustrated finding a job after college, and the job search was really frustrating at that time. And I don't know why we talked about that, but I mentioned it to you, and you even offered to have a conversation with him about it, which I just like, how kind of you. He didn't even go to your school district. It's like, oh my gosh. And as you'll probably figure, that he's now had a successful job in Snoqualmie as a computer programmer for over 3 years. It's his first job and he's just stuck with it for, a long time. And so thank you for your encouraging words at the time. You're very kind.
Thank you. Thank you. I've been giving quite a few students my cell number because I've always felt since day one, 39 years ago, that once someone's a student of mine, they're always a student of mine. So I have a lot of connections with students and families in this community and my previous school district's community, and it's love of my life, truly. So thank you, Michelle.
Anyone else? Councilmember Naplin?
Yeah, I just wanted to say again, just thank you for your dedication to this community, and you took us through a really challenging time. And anyway, I hope you don't make yourself a stranger here. I know my husband specifically would love to see you. And anyway, we're just very grateful for your service.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. And for those of you that don't know, so I tell my students now I'm older than dirt. And so a proof of that is that Jennifer's husband, I didn't have him in class, but we did a lot of pickup basketball games and things. So he was actually a student when I was in my first few years of teaching at South Whidbey High School. And his parents were prominent members of the community, and actually doing John Naplin, Greg's deceased dad, did project management for the school district and did a fabulous job on our facilities. So we're all connected in some way.
Anyone else? All right, well, I just wanted to say two things. First off, to Dr. Leach, welcome. We're so excited to have you in our community. And then to Dr. Smith, you know, I actually left a card for you at City Hall, so staff will get it to you at some point. It's just from the City Council thanking you for your service to our community. I think, you know, you've left a wonderfully positive impression on all the students and the schools and the community that we have here. So we wish you the best of luck on your future endeavors or adventures. I don't know what it'll be. And then on a personal note, you know, I think you subbed not that long ago at Tolt Middle School, and my son Sean had told me he went up to you and he's like, you know, my mom's on city council. And so you guys are having a conversation, and it's so wonderful. And we always see you at the 6th grade concerts at Tolt, and the kids think it's so cool that the superintendent shows up to their concert. That's a big deal to them. So just thank you again for being so personal and everything you've done.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, thanks again. We hope you guys have a great night. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we'll move on to Love Thy Neighbor proclamation. It's a fairly short one. This is from the mayor, and I'll go ahead and read it on her behalf. It's Love Thy Neighbor Month in 2022, whereas for centuries, the United States of America, which includes the state of Washington and the city of Duvall, has been plagued with discrimination and racism. Whereas the Declaration of Independence reads, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, and that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And whereas there currently is no known holiday, day, or month set aside to bring American people together as one people, and whereas the Tacoma Ministerial Alliance has deemed that July of each year be recognized as Love Thy Neighbor Month, and whereas Love Thy Neighbor Month is a hate-free month based on the common humanity of all, including Washingtonians and residents of the city of Duvall, and therefore Mayor Okerlander does proclaim that July 2022 is Love Thy Neighbor Month in Duvall. And she calls upon the people of the city of Duvall to work toward fostering and appreciating and demonstrating love toward one another, irrespective of any difference. All right, and I just got to find the right page here on my agenda, sorry. All right, so now we will move on to, there are no public hearings scheduled. There's nothing under unfinished business. So now we're just on to new business. And we'll start with AB 22-24, ordinance updating the NPDES code for 2022 with Director Laniszewski.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and council, staff, and citizens in the audience. Steve Laniszewski, Public Works. So before you is the final draft of the document to update city code relative to storm drainage utility, as well as the collection and code enforcement section for storm drainage matters. There was some correspondence today, so I thought I'd just prepare a couple of quick notes to share what each section does. So sorry, hopefully you will indulge. So in brief, it's chapter 9. There's section 6. We have .020, which is definitions. Those are updated to be relevant to today and consolidating definitions out of some of the other parts of the code. 9.06.030 incorporates design manuals, provides stronger language and just more concise clarity on what the guidance documents are for storm drainage. 9.06035, minimal updates to the illicit discharge section. It just ties our violations to the code as well as cleaned up a little bit of section G and H. 060, no changes. 070, no changes. 080, adding inspection requirements at the beginning of projects, which hadn't formerly existed. So those are required. Those are implemented through this very minor change. 090, no changes. .100 is new code section. .110 is new. .120 minimal updates and clarifying charges. 125 minimal changes, move definitions up, and then clarifying some language. 130 was overhauled and moved to a new section of 2.24 for enforcement in its own code itself. 140, better language for adoption and referencing comprehensive planning documents. 145, new section. This is pretty much boilerplate NPDES, so federal drainage requirements. That goes for 150, which was new, but this establishes the resurrection and formality of a developer extension agreement. So utility developer extension agreements are a little more in-depth, and they're more of a contract document for what the development community does for improving utilities in the system and adding new items. And 160 was another new section, severability, nothing all that exciting. I know some of this is boring, but I do apologize too. The red line documentation was tried to make it easier against highlighting. It didn't really work that way for folks, so I did provide that upon request today and can certainly send a red line copy to all who are involved. But I'm hopeful to answer some questions should they exist. We are interested in getting this adopted because of our NPDES permit. This is a permit requirement to have it done. Otherwise, we have to file a G20 non-compliance form and all kinds of fun stuff. So with that said, I am more than happy to field some questions. Where's my button here? Okay, nothing for me. So that's back to you, Councilmember McHenry / Pro Tem.
Go ahead, Councilmember Naplan.
Yeah, I sent in a few questions and this caught my eye because I just recall there was a whole lot of disgruntled people when the North Hill development went in. There's concern that some of the runoff was going there and there was a lot going on. And so when I saw there was a section on variances and it looked like the only way to, there really wasn't community notification. It was just, seemed more of a staff city engineer decision, not really any type of public process or a hearing examiner. I felt a little bit concerned. And so Steve was nice enough to answer some of my questions, but I still don't have a complete handle on, these types of decisions. Would there always be an opportunity for a community member, a neighboring property owner to have input if a variance was being considered? Or if a decision had been made, could they appeal it? Because the way it's written now, it shows the only person eligible to appeal any decision, either in favor or not in favor of a variance, is the applicant. And I just want to make sure that there is an ability for the community, if they had a concern, to have input.
So yeah. So on that part of this, I know Mr. Kenny is here, but I think this is probably Mrs. Thomas's bailiwick, and I hopefully conveyed it to how these criteria get assessed is normally through a development application process. So that has its own announcements, right? SEPA comment periods, the whole distance away from the applicant's project. I could stand to be corrected. We don't normally have an application come through for something wacky in an existing neighborhood, right? So if that required some, hey, I want to put in 100% impervious and I want to do a couple things that, you know, aren't required by code, that doesn't mean it falls into storm. We have other provisions that they have to go through, planning documents or planning processes for development activities. So I think it's a little out of context in that sense, because I think I can't say this with 100% certainty because we haven't had everything happen all the time or in our time here, but these actions are wrapped into a process. So we will go and, for example, the Adventure Church on Stella, right? They burn down, they have to come into compliance with current standard. Current standard for them, storm drain wise, goes to new code, right? The old code, they're not grandfathered to anything because they have a current application. They are, I can't remember, 100 feet outside of the detention discharge requirement area, right? Quarter mile downstream from the receiving body, they would have to put in an entire storm drain collection detention system. We didn't necessarily believe that was the right thing to do. We worked it out with them. They're providing a significant enhancement in their water quality, which they had none. They're actually reducing their overall impervious surface, which is great. So those things that are benefiting within reason, that is an example that was in and part of the notice of application process with staff comments and conditions of approval that then goes to the public for their review. So I think that's a typical variance. I don't want to say nothing else can happen because I can never know what type of application is going to come in. But if we had some crazy application that I would imagine would trigger some kind of variance to the storm code, it would have to have an underlying permit that would have that process, or at least be forced into, like you saw, a type 3. So I can't say we got it 100% licked. I just don't know what I don't know yet, I guess.
Okay, so I mean, the bottom line is I just want to make sure there's full transparency if variances are given, because there have been other, you know, even not necessarily storm related, but, you know, sidewalk reductions or different things like that. There's just variances that happen here and there. And it sounds like the one with Adventure Church was completely reasonable and isn't going to harm anyone. And there are council is able to be aware of, you know, things like that. If there's policy change that needs to happen.
Right, I had a thought on that, and I think some of the underlying language in making all of the codes get to yes too. So there's many things you have to do once you don't try to do something for whatever reason it is. So there's a lot of protections in here, and overall water quality will be improved. It's bar none. Our states and our, you know, I think our state more so even than our nation in our region is huge on stormwater compliance and management, so that's good. But I think one of the things I said, and I would, you know, I know we want to see more updates from staff. I would love to put somebody, a committee in charge of, hey, I haven't talked to, I don't have a boss right now, so I guess that's fine. But if there was literally a template of a couple of things that were important to make sure we always make note of, i.e. these types of things, great. If it's covered in an announcement, okay. But if it's some weird thing just falls into this like category of no man's land, I think once we get to a level of staffing, that shouldn't be an issue. Like someday I hope we have programmatic deployment of work out of our office, so it's not a fire drill to get a bid out and get it reviewed and in the packet like within a day. Like I would like to have processes and time to do that kind of work. So I think we can get to that type of reporting. I think we just would create a template of some sort. That's kind of what I was thinking.
I think that's a great idea. Yeah, for me, I just have seen disgruntled people on other projects and different things that have happened. I just want to make sure that we aren't removing a level of transparency that we might have had and making less transparency. But you're telling me you don't think this is creating less transparency in the process?
No, it's transparent, and the multitude of manuals to come through to get an equivalent alternative improving the system is vast.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Director Thomas?
I cannot make an excuse. I was on vacation, so I'm coming in this a little bit late. And actually, I want to make sure Daniel weighs in as well, because I do want to make sure we just cover our bases and that we know what we're doing. Traditionally, when we get a land use entitlement in, it would run through that traditional process, and we would issue notice of application, send it out to the community. But we don't always know at that time, before the first review, if they're going to need a variance or a departure or whatever that is. And it's not necessarily honestly identified in a SEPA determination, because SEPA is for things that aren't, they're more outside the code and policy. They're like usually mitigation measures. And so I do want to make sure we're hitting it right, because if it says the applicant can appeal, then that means only the applicant can appeal. So I just want to make sure
Yes.
that Daniel is, that we're just including him in the conversation really quick.
Mr. Kenny, do you want to weigh in?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what the provision says there under number 7, is the applicant aggrieved by the engineer's decision can make that appeal. I guess I would presume, as Steve said, that there would be some underlying permit. I guess I'm not familiar enough to know what that permit would be to make sure that there is an appeal process for another aggrieved person. Typically you have to have, some standing to make that appeal. So it's not going to just be anybody that doesn't like a development can point to that or something. That's not what you're implying, but it would have to be somebody that thinks that there's going to be an impact. But I would have to talk with Steve offline to try to get an understanding of the sequencing of those permits. But typically when there's a decision, there would be, on a permit, there would be some basis to challenge what's included within that, which would be likely these conditions.
So if a type 3 permit, which is if there's a variance, it says it's a type 3, but now I'm hearing, depending on if you even knew there was a variance, maybe you would have given it a different type and then it doesn't go through that process. It seems a little hazy. And so my concern is if there is a variance and the city engineer has determined it, and it says here that you can't, the only person that can appeal it is the applicant. What takes precedent if normally a type 3 says you can appeal it? You know what I mean? Like, it seems somewhat contradictory. So, because one place says a type 3 you can appeal, another place says no one except for the applicant can appeal.
I think we might just need to have a conversation maybe offline, because for the most part, a land use entitlement's not going to change because it needs a stormwater permit variance, but we'd like to know that it's going to be there and that we include it in the application materials. But sometimes that doesn't happen, like I said, until after the first review. So I just want to make sure that we do capture it. But land use permits are appealable to whoever the governing body is at that time, whether it's a court or a hearing examiner. So we do want to make sure that, that we get it right. Sorry, Steve, I should have looked at this a little bit earlier. So does this need to be resolved this evening?
Like I said, it is required to be adopted, I think the 28th
of June.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. So we are kind of in the 11th hour. I'm trying to pull up your table to go through the process. The heading of that section for our legal counsel is 9.06.145 minimum requirements for new development and redevelopment. So I can't see this coming in under some sort of non-permit. Like, this is bigger stuff, and the appellant is complaining that the city engineer was they required too many things. It's not the opposite, that somebody would be appealing, like they're not going to appeal, like, oh, the city engineer didn't make me do anything, I'm going to appeal that. So if they can't meet the exactness of the codes, we go through the processes that are in those codes themselves to find alternatives. And I think this is more of like the other way, but I can't, again, say for sure. And then Laura, I don't know which type, I can't even find your table of types in the
It
code.
is going to be dependent on the project. So usually it's going to be a type 2 or 3.
Yes.
I'm trying to help. Sorry.
Trying to find
I think what I would say, so Steve, maybe kind of the equivalent is when we review a project and there's a development design standards, which is a similar kind of policy document, you have departures and variances in there and they're administrative. So an administrative, Daniel, now I need your help too. I'm assuming because it is an administrative decision, you know, I'll just say Steve, we'll just say Steve. If somebody disagreed with that, that could be appealed, but I'm assuming it would have to be appealed as part of the underlying land use entitlement.
I mean, that's normally how that would work. Yeah, what I'm trying to look right now at the type 3s to see, you know, how those would go in some analogous situations like a conditional use permit, and variances are outlined there.
Yeah, and the strange thing too, Dan, not strange, but this is outside of the zoning code. This is in chapter 9. So it is a little bit more nuanced.
Well, yeah, because typically there's a recommendation for a normal type 3 variance. There's a recommendation by the planning department. The final decision is made by the hearing examiner on a type 3. So the reference to type 3 is probably just intended to be for noticing purposes, would be my guess.
And those variances that are identified in that are variances from zoning code.
Correct. Right.
Yeah.
A whole different structure.
Mm-hmm.
And really it just says the appeal process for type 3. So you would just go down to what is the appeal process for a type 3, and you would look. I'd have to click to the next section, but it's appeal. There is no open record public hearing appeal. It is appealable to the King County Superior Court.
So just to help, because I don't want to drag this on forever, if it has to be adopted tonight to be in compliance with a requirement, I mean, could we adopt it and then come back and fix this if we need to? I mean, I just don't want to hold everything up, but I do think it is important that if we're making variances, that there is a process that someone could appeal it if they didn't feel comfortable with it. Besides just the person who benefits from it.
Yeah, that's kind of right.
Thanks for that idea, Councilmember Naplin. I was trying to think of something similar.
Yeah.
But Mr. Kenny, would that work if we just adopted it and then could, you know, still continue that offline conversation and see if anything needs to be changed?
You can always amend your code again. Yes.
Okay.
Could we propose to adopt it, but put a disclaimer that this will come back? Do you know what I mean? Or
No, I mean, the code's the code.
I think we would just have to adopt it, but obviously staff is going to continue and hear what we're saying and look into that and get it resolved to whatever level it needs to be, it sounds like.
Yeah, timing is, I would assure you, Ms. Grundell would tell you exactly how that was supposed to go. I'm fairly certain there's separate styles of processes that aren't circumventing land use, but may come in some way that we haven't had yet, but somebody puts it there for a reason, right? That's why it's code. So I think, I don't know if she'd be back by July 21 meeting, but certainly, you know, the first time we could get her back to answer the questions, or maybe she could write a quick narrative too, that might suffice. But yeah, I have no problem supplementing this decision with a quick summary memo on that topic.
Councilmember Isaacson, I had seen your hand up a bit ago when we were trying to work through that stuff, so I just wanted to check back with you first and see if you had something to add or a question.
I just, from planning commission experience, we had deviations and you know, went through planning commission, and I don't know if these are planning commission as well before they were final approval, and we would be like observation, but I didn't know if these went through planning commission as well.
You're breaking up a lot, but I think what I heard was you were asking if it had gone through planning commission.
Yes, that's what he asked.
Okay.
It did not go through planning commission because it's not within our zoning code. So
Okay.
they would not have weighed in it. I think what we need
What's
to
the
do.
question, Laura? It did go to planning commission if you're talking about this code language.
The MPDS
Yes,
from chapter 9 went to planning commission
in March.
and they made a recommendation.
I don't know that they made a recommendation, but they certainly were apprised of the code.
Okay, Councilmember Schaefer.
And
go ahead.
then the deviation. Sorry, what I was actually asking was deviations in this nature, do they go through planning commission once they're been requested? You know, deviation variances are set up and gone through planning commission and also.
John, you're breaking up a lot. I'm having a hard time making out what you were saying. Councilmember Naplin, are you translating what you heard?
I think what Councilmember Isaacson might be saying is, if this scenario occurs in the future that there is a variance requested, would it go through planning commission, such as other variances sometimes come through planning commission?
No, variances do not go to planning commission. Design review goes to planning commission. Variances go to the hearing examiner. And I guess it did get a touch at planning commission, but no recommendation was provided. I think we just need to put our group think hats on, wait for Larissa to come back. Daniel, is it okay if we adopt it? Technically, we're in a moratorium right now, so I don't see a new project coming through in the next month per se, so we should be okay, Daniel?
Well, I mean, when the code, I agree. Yes, I agree. When the code's in place, certainly somebody could utilize the code. But I would envision, a prompt answer to move on this question. But I can't guarantee that somebody wouldn't necessarily use the code.
Thank you. Councilmember Schaefer, thanks for your patience. Go ahead.
Let's see. So I'm also in favor of adopting this tonight, coming back and amending it. And as Daniel said, the code's the code, so we can always change it. I just wanted to make sure I was looking at I'm looking at the Q&A right now. And Jennifer, I believe this was your comment. The previous wording was the applicant, any agreed party, any member of the city council or the mayor may appeal a decision of the city engineer to grant or deny a variance. Now that was the previous wording. Is that correct, Jennifer?
There's a funny story about that. That was the previous code, but it was previous from 2017. And I don't know how, when I went through the code, so it had disappeared and there didn't seem to be any language regarding variances for about 5 years, which is very strange. I don't know why that chapter or section got removed. But I did find it and I thought, well, wow, why would we not have opportunities for a neighbor or another agreed party to appeal? And so it caught my eye, and that's what got me started down this lovely rabbit trail.
Okay, well, appreciate your research, because I think to me that's useful. So this is just a suggestion. Maybe this is the wording that we should readapt, when we amend the code again. I like that more general wording. To me, it's much more transparent and it's much clearer who can appeal a variance. So anyway, that's it.
Thank you. Councilmember Mercer.
And I'm not going to belabor this, beyond, because I had read it and I think I somewhat fell down, on the side of where Steve was coming from, is that it was sort of appeal an adverse decision, in which case then it frames it to the applicant versus the broader. But I think, Jennifer, with the more expansive, particularly when you were looking at legacy code or the legacy language, that broadens up the potential parties involved. So that's the other way. I think if there could be clarification in terms of, from an administrative ruling, if it's adverse or that the applicant feels that they're being penalized, that frames this one way. If it's the result of the granting the variance aggrieves other parties or that impacts them, then that, there obviously should be a mechanism for that. So when Director Laniszewski and Director Thomas are digging into this a bit more, that may also help us frame what we're actually trying to mitigate. So
I'll jump in really quick and then we just need to, I feel like we need to move on. It really is a secondary level decision, and that is folded into a bigger land use decision. So I think, Steve, honestly, I think while you're out, Daniel and I can probably peel through it and get it done, and then have Larissa double check it so that we can, if we need to, bring it back to the second meeting in July.
Yeah, so thank you for all of that. I definitely agree with that as well. Especially love that phrase, legacy language. That's really awesome. I'm going to use that again, Ron. So with that, and knowing we can amend our code at any time, and that this needs to get done sooner rather than later, does anyone want to make a motion on this item?
I'll move. I move to approve Agenda Bill 2224, adapting an ordinance adding section 2.24.140 to the Duvall Municipal Code and repealing and reinstating Chapter 9.06 Storm Utilities.
a second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any more discussion? Okay, then all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, please say no. Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Our next item is AB 22-58, Code Amendment for Staff Vacation Time with Director Mason.
Good evening again. I'm just going to quickly share my screen. All right, can everyone see this? So this is a request. Current code requires a 6-month waiting period for new employees to use vacation accruals. New employees then resort to unpaid leave for pre-planned vacations, inclement weather, and family emergencies. This is a request to amend the code to allow vacation to be used as it's accrued. And this would make the city a little more competitive in the labor market. It could lower the amount of vacation that's paid out when an employee leaves the city because they don't have that. They're using it hopefully as they accrue it instead of accumulating it. And then of course, it causes less stress for new employees who are trying to figure out what to do when they needed to take a day off. This has been reviewed by the Finance Committee, who has given it their blessing. Are there any questions or comments? I will stop my share.
Thank you, Director Mason. Did anyone on the Finance Committee want to speak on this item at all, or anyone else have any questions or comments? Okay. This is, thought I heard someone. Okay. So this is set up, I think, for discussion and or decision. Did anyone want to make a motion on it tonight? And I believe if you did, we would need to waive our rules.
Okay, well, I move to what do I say? I move to not follow the three-touch rule and to go ahead and approve Agenda Bill 2258, approving the amendment to Duvall Municipal Code, Chapter 4.12.020, allowing employees to use vacation accruals as earned rather than after completing a 6-month probationary period.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, please say no. Motion passes. Thank you, everyone. And our last item of the night is AB 22-60, appointment of Duvall Planning Commissioner. Oh, go ahead, Clerk McMillan.
To let everyone know that Blake is here this evening and he has expressed a desire to say a few words.
Okay. Let's see. Trying to pull up the, I know that got sent separately, pull up the agenda bill tonight. Director Thomas, do you usually introduce anything on this topic, or do we just make a motion and move on it?
Usually I don't. I can give you a briefing. Obviously, we've had a planning commission vacancies, and we felt really lucky. We got an additional application in, and last week the mayor and Troy Davis interviewed them, and they said it was a very successful interview. So I asked, hey, can I put together an agenda bill and get that out to council today? And so we did that. You know, one of the reasons obviously why I want to get us kind of filled up is we've got a lot of business to move forward within the planning commission. And since we have a couple of new council members, we'd like to do our training at once versus 2 or 3 times. And we don't have a first council meeting for July. So that means that we wouldn't be able to seat this new position until August for at their first meeting for planning commission. So thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone like to make a motion on this agenda bill? I think Councilmember Schaefer, you're muted.
Okay, there, I think I'm unmuted now. Anyway, I move to approve Agenda Bill 22-060, confirm Mayor Aucklander's appointment of Blake Vinterton. And Blake, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your last name, to City of Duvall Planning Commission, position number 7, an unexpired term ending in 2025.
I'll second that as long as Blake pronounces his name for us so that we get it right next time. Because I was struggling too, thinking.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any more discussion? Okay, then all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed, please say no. Motion passes. And with that, I will pass this over to Blake, who's gonna say his last name. I'm sorry, I didn't want to butcher it. So go ahead. Sometimes that button sticks.
Maybe the clerk could unmute.
Oh,
him
here we
if-
go. He's not connected. Here he comes. Oh, now you can unmute yourself, I think. Maybe try it. There we go.
Am I live?
Yes.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you so much. My name is Blake Vingerton. So excited to join the Planning Commission team. I've been grew up here in the Valley, went to high school at Cedar Crest, and I've been a homeowner here in Duvall since 2017, and really excited to play a small part in the city's success. So thank you so much for your vote of confidence.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vinterton. We are so excited to have you. And I wouldn't say it's a small part. I think planning commission's really important, and we're so happy to have you there. And there are many past planning commissioners on our council as well. So welcome to Duvall.
Thank you so much. Thank you for all you all do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so with that, I believe we are at the end of our agenda. Let me just check here really quick. So if there are no objections, I will adjourn our meeting at 8:54.
Great.
Hope you guys all have a good night.
Bye, everyone.
Night.
Bye.